Help, we're in the religious zone. But it's not that bad. To get your head around how amazing it was for the Greeks to depict the gods as human, see how it's done by a different culture. Greek art would be impossible without Egyptian art. Egyptian culture is much older and more sophisticated than the Greeks. The Greeks encounter it because they start to establish colonies everywhere, and when they do that, they're influenced by what they see. The Greeks stood in amazement in front of Egyptian depictions of gods. This is the Temple of Isis on the Nile. The Egyptians had a vast single kingdom with a godlike ruler and a whole class of priests that maintained religious tradition. The gods looked the same forever. They were beautiful, but they always were flat, part human, part animal. From 2,000 years before the arrival of the Greek classical style to 1,000 years after it, through the Romans and up to the Christians. Those smashed faces are Christian monks attacking Egyptian gods with chisels. Think of the Egyptians as ancient and the Greeks as children compared to them. They're children with hyperactive imaginations. In the ancient civilizations, there's a stiffness, a purely symbolic quality in the way the gods are conjured up, rather than them seeming to be real, like your body feels real, or I look real, or the people in the room with you now seem alive and real. This difference between stiffness and movement, between symbolic and real, itches away at the Greeks. They're impressed by the awesome look-at-ability of Egyptian depictions of the gods. And the Greeks want that mood, but they want something else as well. They want human life. Hello, gods, youths, slender, staggering beauties with erect nipples. What are you? Why were you invented? Archaic period Greek statues are called kuroi, which means youths. The kuroi are much more delicate and human than anything done before. They have spooky animated smiles, and there are subtle differences between one body and another. They're not just one rigid stereotype. During the 150-year period in which the kuroi were being made, there's a drive towards a greater and greater lifelikeness and a push away from the rigid and the stereotyped. Why? They think that their gods look like them, so to make a statue of one that's more and more human is to make it more and more godly. But the reason they feel they have to keep pushing and pushing in that direction is for a very human motivation: competitiveness. The Greeks go in for competitive sponsoring of statues. They want the statues that they've paid for to be more noticeable and talked about than the ones that some other city or wealthy individual has paid for. They want them to be better. The Greeks are always looking over their shoulder at what everyone else is doing and thinking, how can I get the edge on him? Full-length, head-on, nude male. Tell us about your perfectly proportioned self. You're an athlete. You're a dead warrior, depicted young when you looked your best. You're the god Apollo. You're all these things. You smile to be attractive because you're an offering. You smile because you're a man, and men are in charge. The wives stay indoors. If they have to go out, they're covered up, but you are nude. You smile because you're sexy. The men who want to look at you have sex with boys, and with men, and with their wives. But whoever it's with, they think the one on top's in control. Control is philosophically important. Now you're smiling because you know we've lost you. You really are a strange being made by strange people. But you embody an ideal that civilization keeps being fascinated by: the balanced individual, mind and body honed to a beautiful, perfect pitch. It's the makeup of Greek society that causes Greek art to change so fast.
They don't have a vast single nation like the Egyptians. Very unlike the modern metropolis of Athens, they lived in little groupings spread out over a vast area. Each one had its own different social system. They didn't have an iron control over all thought, dictated by tradition and kings. They were absolutely up for questioning everything, for discussing the meaning of everything. That jostling, competitive, free-thinking atmosphere was so productive that it only took a few decades for the Kuroi, with their intimations of life, to mutate into this panorama of the whole of life. It's a religious festival carved to decorate the Temple of the Parthenon in Athens. Men and gods, staggeringly clear, staggeringly real, except when they're worn away and it's the blurry outlines of a blurry, forgotten ritual. The Elgin marbles, removed from the Parthenon by Lord Elgin in the 19th century and brought to England. For us, the Parthenon is the great symbol of the invention of modern politics. It was the Greeks who came up with this unlikeliest idea of civilization. It's so normal sounding now that we don't realise how bizarre it was to other people at the time. The Greeks saw their own perfection in their perfect sculptures of gods, and they thought, why couldn't society be perfected?
Greek culture brings in self-awareness, self-scrutiny, self-defining. The Greeks question what society can be. They look at their own individual power, they philosophize human nature. How do we work? They're so clever, they can be filled with awesome religious piety about the gods, and yet they can still question what a god actually is. It's absolutely radical. No one's ever tried thinking like this before, let alone made this way of thinking into a whole social system. It doesn't crush human nature, it's based on human nature. It looks at the problem of the human ego, of passions, of drives, of moral corruption, and it tries to bring out a right balance of feeling and reason. This strange experiment that everyone's in is called democracy.
The whole ferment of Greek invention is about bringing together mind, body, religion, politics. Whenever the classical look comes up in civilization, in whatever age, even if the look is being challenged and pristine marble purity is being parodied, as it often is in contemporary art, what is evoked is the idea the Greeks invented: self-questioning, self-creation. You can be someone. You are someone. Civilization didn't always give the Greeks the thumbs up. When a new religion came along, it spent centuries being furious with the perfect classical human body and wanting to smash it up. The Greeks were wise and intelligent, but our Father in heaven says, destroy the wisdom of the wise and set aside the knowledge of the intelligent. Get ready for the day of judgment. After the ad break, Amen.